I've been asked to reflect on new ideas for the new normal and how we might live in a post-pandemic world. Immediately, imposter syndrome shouted in my ears, why are they asking you? So I've some advice for myself and others encouraging positive change in their lives about how we can embrace the things we're passionate about or anything else we wish to gain prominence in doing well. While at the same time, imposter syndrome shouts loudly and often convincingly at us. My work focuses on work and professional identities in tech communities. For example, I've written extensively about the mislabeling of women in tech, and I've been trolled on social media platforms because speaking publicly about inequality serves as an invitation for conflict. So as we move into the new normal, I feel hopeful about changes for a post-pandemic world where flexible working from home, and work within the household, including housework and caring roles, take on new meanings, where in the past women have asked the loudest for such support. It's apparent, however, that many of the bad things we wish we could leave behind, prejudice, inequality, misogyny, hate, discrimination, poverty, have their own ideas and have already influenced the shape for the new normal. So where to begin? Our hope for the post-pandemic world needs some sources of comfort, like a big squishy cushion to hug and a blanket to hide beneath. With this in mind, I'm going to share the books that are my source of hope, of comfort, of renewal, of self-learning, and at the same time, these are the readings that have helped and are helping to turn my imposter syndrome into a more gracious and exciting set of accomplishments. Are you sitting snugly? Then let us give some comfort to each other. We cannot conceive a new normal on an empty stomach. So my first read, and in this case eating, recommendation is for Nigel Slater's Real Fast Puddings, where on page 58 you will find his delectable and easy to assemble and bake blackberry and apple crumble recipe. Once you've made and started to devour this lavish but by no means pretentious pudding, you'll want to turn to Slater's The Kitchen Diaries, or, though we are early in the year, The Christmas Chronicles. Devour each spoon. Allow Slater's lyrical prose to immerse you into the warm embrace of comfort food, the subtle change of season, and a hope for future sustainable food bounties. Slater's words exude a sense of salvation as much as his recipes inspire and give comfort in some uncertain times. Working through such unease, which has its own challenges with my adventurous 5-year-old daughter as co-pilot, I try to embody the notion that self-comfort is just as much comfort at a personal melodic level as the faster rhythm of, in my case, scholarly work. I view seeking comfort within and around the communities I research as the opportunity to create moments for pause, reflection, and renewal. Unfortunately, this gem about self-comforting and other possible pearls of wisdom are lost to subsequent self-doubt. So in acknowledging what methods or readings may offer comfort, we need to first recognize that our capacity to feel that we are worthy of self-care and then share our ideas. This takes me nicely onto my following book recommendation, Cath Bishop, The Long Win. I go on about the pleasures of learning something new to my students, but there is something appealing about going back over past experiences and learnings and putting these into context. Bishop, a former British rower, was world champion in partnership with Catherine Granger in the cockless pair in 2003, and in 2004 they won a silver medal at the Olympic Games. Bishop writes about winning, or rather what it is to win and to succeed. I was fortunate to read Bishop at the beginning of the first lockdown in the UK in March 2020, and my reading of her book changed my outlook, lifted my spirits during a very bleak period. It doesn't matter I'm terrible at homeschooling, I've not learned a new instrument or rediscovered my old school recorder for that matter, I've not taken up growing vegetables on an allotment, though this sounds amazing, but winning has been more time with my daughter. The good and the frustrating. Bishop puts all this into perspective before I'd even got halfway through her book. But I finished it, another win, and I've learned a lot about how to evaluate my past so-called successes and failures. In terms of self-care, because of my research, it's easy to self-criticize when you're trying to care for someone else. I've buckled recently under the nasty criticism of anonymous trolls who throw rebukes laced in misogyny and personal attacks. As much as winning, self-care is being prepared to be vulnerable and developed a sense of purpose and meaning beyond barbed exchanges on social media, short-term targets, wealth or other extrinsic rewards. In reading Bishop, I'm confident to embrace different perspectives and disagreements about research and even homeschooling, which is exhilarating. Cyberstalking, however, remains absolutely terrifying. From Bishop, then, I've learned resilience. In the past, I've let systems and processes bury me into silence, temporarily at least. I found myself, like the communities I research, silenced and singled out for attack. In the process of recovering my voice, I've had to face the reality that speaking out, or not, is just as much about me as it is the communities I research and belong to. A must-read to break through such silence and such invisibility is Caroline Criado's Perez's Invisible Women. I should mention that I asked my students to read Perez's text, and though there is some resistance or perhaps speculation whether her words are just for women, they read her work, and they are changed by her words. Back to the self-imposture syndrome. Whether manifest at work, as a parent, or the ability to get things right today, self-doubt is not unique to scholars and reminds me about the importance of finding networks and outlets for support. During the lockdowns, I have braved writing terrible poetry. Such ripening moments have opened my ears and heart to Amanda Gorman's voice, radiating joy and conviction during dark times. Listening to her reading The Hill We Climb to mark the inauguration of Joe Biden as the 46th President of the United States, I felt hope. I continue to feel hope. Gorman's verse eases the soul like chopped nuggets of chocolate. Hope is undoubtedly at the heart of a post-pandemic, post-climate change world. And suppose you are yet to discover the treasure trove of Gorman's verse, if, in this case, online, you can find her self-published poetry collection, The One for Whom Food is Not Enough. We can share our delight at the publication of Gorman's first lyrical book, Change Sings, a children's anthem, coming out in September. Such celebration of rhythm and hope has become the backdrop to the ways to take my daughter and I's mind away from other events that lead our bodies into dance. In building towards ideas for the new normal, I'm acutely aware that such perspectives are deeply personal. Social media is amassed with new ideas and hope, as much as misinformation and disdain. Each hangs in its own way in our personal space. Such realization should be a crucial part of our collective desire for a new normal, while also recognizing how we can protect ourselves from unwelcome intrusions, comments about who you are and what you are seen to represent, your professional image and your personal life. Beyond recognizing self-criticism, I often force myself to accept invitations if my schedule allows, as a powerful means to overcome my initial self-doubt. Such a tool I deploy is inspired by Atul Gawande's The Checklist Manifesto. Gawande writes of failure and walks us through a series of examples where one misstep has devastating consequences. In his writing, Gawande has inspired me to embrace help, to ask for help, to develop a personal checklist to check in with myself and make my spirit feel lighter. Why would I push myself in the face of intense self-doubt? I make myself because the imposter syndrome I suffer from is the same pathology that limits and casts doubt in the minds of others trying to do the next right thing. I push myself because every time I decline an invitation, there's a good chance that someone else who is also underrepresented will not be invited. This is especially true for some of the large commercial tech events I attend, lacking diverse speakers or making events fully accessible. I push myself because becoming familiar with the new normal will not be easy. Normal is unfamiliar in this context by design and feels ambiguous, or rather it is too scary, to quote my daughter. If you also feel self-doubt and the twinge of guilt for turning requests down, along with the stress of being overburdened with new demands, then the knowledge your actions directly affect others around you adds more pressure. Notwithstanding this, thinking of the positive flip side, taking time to care for yourself, nurturing curiosity about the world, considering what it is to win, and paying attention to the rhythm and new ideas for the new normal, this is the remedy that is working for me. I hope such curiosities and apple bakes will work for you too.